What's going on, everyone? So we got the sales in today from VG Charts by getting the total numbers from Matt Piscatella, getting the European numbers from Christopher Dring, and we know when it comes to Japan, they do weekly with Famitsu. Used to be Dengeki, but Nintendo wins worldwide, as I said they would. But this is the funny thing. They won worldwide, but there was no, like, discounts or whatever because your console just came out. Sony had to do $170 off, plus the 24 months of premium to stay relevant on their subscription right over here. Sorry, the light's not really working in because the light outside is kind of reflecting in here. But remember, this was a $749 deal that you got for $579. With the disc drive is $549. And you get 2 years of PlayStation Plus Premium. $320 for 2 years. So do you know how great this deal is? Hey, man, this is not a bad deal. I'm not hating on it, but I'm saying in order for Sony to stay relevant with Nintendo, why you think they're worried about them? They have to give you that type of deal. And I'm all for it because the consumer is winning here. And Nintendo is making it to where you're getting benefited. Why is that bad? See, like I said, Nintendo's going to help the whole gaming industry. And they're making Sony lower their price. That's not bad, man. You're insane to me if you think that that's bad. But what I need to say from a competitive standpoint is that Sony is worried about Nintendo. They're looking at them now. Xbox is irrelevant. I mean, look at that. They sold 149,000 in the holidays and in October. November is going to be worse, probably. The Nintendo Switch 1 is still outselling the Xbox now easily. The only thing they had was right here. But other than that, I mean, you don't really have anything going for you. You're fourth place, not third place. Sorry, Xbox is not third place anymore, guys. It's fourth place. Nintendo Switch 1 is third place. Though we could say, what do you mean? But hey, man, what are we talking about? It is, though. So you're last place, now you're fourth place behind the Switch 1. Yeah, Xbox is dead. I have to say it. What do you want me to say? I didn't do that. Microsoft did. Now, here's the thing, though, that needs to be found out here. All right, going down here to the October numbers because we have the worldwide results. Like I said, Nintendo's the market leader now. Tripster, almost 1.4 million. All right, and here's the catch: Sony had that insane deal going on in Europe where they had a discount there. Not only did they have a discount in Europe, but they had a discount only in the U.S. Over here in the U.S. too. As we see, you can get that at GameStop for $579. So, but there was a bigger deal going on in Europe, a bigger deal. And that's what Sony had to do to stay relevant. Hey, whatever, they're being smart, they're not being greedy, they're being forced to kind of do that. Otherwise, if you're sitting there with lesser sales, Nintendo's, you're probably at like, what, 1 million maybe then? Still good numbers though, you know. But as we see in the US, Nintendo's dominating. In Japan, they're dominating, and in Europe, they have a good balance worldwide. And I tried to tell you guys, it's all this grifting. Watch what happens when Nintendo comes in the gaming industry. And June, they're going to lift up the whole industry and make everything better. And they have done that. They have launched so many first-party games already. I think we're at like 6 now. We're about to get, or 7 with Kirby, and then we're about to get Metroid Prime in December. And a Pokemon expansion coming as well. And we already got a lot of games coming next year as well. But there's a lot to talk about here. One, we know Sony is having some problems in Japan, right? 45K for the whole month. They're like, we need to do something about this, Nishino, right? Nishino sitting over like, man, we need, guys, 45, man, that just looks bad when it comes to balance. You're being carried by Europe. Because that's what they sold out to. And in the USA, you're fine, you know what I mean? But Nintendo's double banking. Let me tell you, they're doing that 1.37 right here and at 275K. They're hitting 1.6 something million in totality, right? Because you got to add it all up. They're double banking. They're winning big time. So, exclusives on the go, taking care of business, you know, taking care of business on the go. Let's go, bro. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, that's what they're doing. So, yeah, it's not bad that Nintendo's beating Sony because what does that mean? Sony's like, now it's time to do some deals. And they're dropping all these first-party games? Damn, man. Microsoft felt like they had the best software. You're dropping out. Nintendo's already dropping all that. And they've been doing that consistently. That's what I'm saying. You ain't messing with them. And they ain't have to monopolize for that. That's what they built up in their in-house this whole time. That identity didn't sell out to politics. Didn't sell out to Western society. Didn't abandon Japan communication like Jim Ryan did, cutting off communication with Japan, wanting to gas Nitro Rush off the cliff. Nintendo didn't do no gas rush games. They're not chasing that goose chase. They didn't make that stupid mistake during the COVID era where people did dumb stuff and they didn't see the inflation come down. You'll see them. These are mistakes that they just do not make. They're masters. Now, they may do the little $10 more for this little thing here and there. These little small things, you know what I mean? They may, hey, I'm taking you to court, or I'm patenting this and be, you know, a little bit ridiculous with that. But all in all, when you look at that universal light, they have it. They don't lay off their people. They don't dump off people like that. They'll sacrifice and say, take the cuts because we have enough money. They don't have CEOs getting 10, 15 million, 20 million, you know, doing all that type of stuff. They don't get greedy like that. Like, not in that sense, no. They're a family. And when you think about them and that unbreakable bond, it's like you see that Naruto bond coming in game where you never broke apart. You know what I mean? It wins. That unity beats you. So I'm saying most of their success, and it ain't no GTA, it ain't no Call of Duty, ain't no Madden, FIFA every single year, these sports games, Call of Duty every single year, like the same thing you see on these platforms. Where it's like you see in their worlds, they have all their IPs and all their stuff coming in, and it's coming out in the industry, and people see this, hey man, these first party games are dominating. Nintendo selling numbers I wish I can get when I put my games on all these different platforms. Like, for example, Luigi's Mansion 3 sold almost 15 million copies. Or it did. It took Resident Evil a long time to even get like their 13 million. And that was on multiple platforms. So imagine Luigi's Mansion on all those platforms. Nintendo's like, here's Luigi's Mansion on PlayStation right now. And on PC, it'll sell millions. You see what I mean? Here's Pokemon. Oh, here's Pokemon for $39.99. Dude, like Power? What you mean? Bro, that game is going to sell like 50 million copies. One Pokemon game. You know what I mean? And they'll still get a lot just even doing that. So not only is Nintendo dominating in hardware, but they're dominating with software, with their own in-house and identity in totality. And it's on the go and it's in the living room. Because it gives you the idea of, man, they had this going for the longest where it's off the screen and I still got your attention. I got your time. And you're still looking at my market. And when I'm making that much profit compared to PlayStation, it's not microtransactions. It's off of my first party. Yeah, there's some games now that are giving me microtransactions, but in totality, it was because your game was that good, not because I want you to keep spending money after you bought the game. These are things that set good examples. What do you think Clear Expedition 33 is like? It's literally like the Nintendo where it's like, I give you a really good video game, there's a start, there's a finish, and there's no microtransactions, and it's because my game is that good. And I'm glad they're getting their Game of the Year awards, just like Donkey Kong. And, you know, Ghost of Yotei getting what they're getting too. But the idea is that it gives you the idea of what success is about and how you win. And I tell you, that identity is very important. And I think Sony's starting to realize that as well too. And Ashino's looking at the identity of PlayStation. He's like, man, you know what? I would like to get back a little bit into Japan, cater to Japan. Yeah, you should. That's your hometown. But Japan does not forgive easily for that type of stuff, and they're not going to just jump to you. They know who loved them the most, and this is how they operate. They are going to stick with Nintendo, and you're not going to take Japan from Nintendo. No, you're going to be able to get a little bit more in, but they're still going to massively dominate. And there's nothing you can do about that. But there's nothing wrong with even coming along after a certain point and saying, you know what? I'm going to drop the price. You know what I mean? And we're going to drop the price over here and do deals. Good. My Xbox is not going to do it. You want to know why? Because they're not really a gaming company. Or Microsoft, they're not a gaming company. They're an AI company. They're a data center company. They're a cloud company, a computing company. You see what I mean? And they're being led by somebody that wants to push that. So all he wants back is his money. He's not here to say, let's make gaming amazing. Where'd you ever see him say that? No, he said, I want to compete. But then he realized certain things, and now it's not happening. So they can't even outsell the Switch 1. And we saw Nintendo do that little price bump up even in Canada or whatever. It doesn't matter. You see, because it's, once again, it's not about power. Right there. It's about good video games and having all access in all planes and being able to play and still have that experience going. And if it's playable and it's not terrible, people are going to take that. People want that. There's people in the Nintendo world that won't even move from the portable because they love portable so much. Japan is kind of like that in a lot of ways, and you're not getting them to do anything else. So when you think about power, that's just a Western delusion. And power without love is corrupt. It's not enough. You need balance. You need unity. You need companionship. You need strong feedback with your community. You need high replay value. You need good gameplay. You need good storytelling. You need good direction. All this just specs and power, dude. That's just a one-dimensional facet. Video games were never about power. When you were a kid back in the days, you picked up and looked on the box and you were interested, you had a mystery, you got on, you played the game. You enjoyed it. You did not think about all that Digital Foundry stuff. I love Digital Foundry, but I'm just saying, the majority of people still are kind of like that in a way where they just want to get on and get their experience. And if it's enough to be able to get that experience, they're going to take that over thinking about, these $4,000 PCs. And man, don't nobody care about that, man. And now the diminishing returns are more higher than they've ever been. So now PC, it's more, PlayStation 5 Pro is more in your face than ever. PS5 is, but you see what I mean? It doesn't matter. No, well, the problem is that you assholes have specifically churned so much into the AI shortcutting that you made it seem like people needed all this, and they don't. And some people are not getting PlayStation because they're disappointed for certain things, not because of the specs or anything. It's fine. 80% of let me pull up something for you. What Mark Cerny said. And remember, guys, these deals. This is what Sony has to do. Stay relevant, but there's nothing bad with that. What did he say? Mark Cerny said, what was it, like 70% or was it like 80% of PlayStation users choose performance? I'm typing fast mode. That the majority of people care about that. Mark Cerny stated that 75% of PlayStation 5 owners prefer performance mode over fidelity when it given the choice, prioritizing higher frame rates for smoother gameplay. All people want is that performance. You see what I mean? Which some sources mention figures like 80%. The consistent and officially cited statistic from Mark Cerny, look at this right here, during the PS5 Pro reveal is 75%. This preference highlights a strong incantation towards 60 frames per second over graphics. So all you sitting over there on PC talking about, oh, my performance and, oh, you know what I mean? I got all these, man, dude, no, nobody cares. You see what I mean? No. They want the games that are available and they're still able to get that performance. Like Ghost of Yote, ray tracing, 60 frames per second? Are you kidding me? You can get that on consoles right now? You see what I mean? Nintendo, every single one of their first party games now is 60 frames per second. Like I told you before, Mario Kart World, 60 frames per second. Donkey Kong Bonanza, 60 frames per second, and it looks good. They don't care about waiting on PC. You know, they don't care. Hyrule Warrior, 60 frames per second. Pokemon Legends EA, 60 frames per second. Kirby Air Rider, 60 frames per second. Metroid Prime, 4K, 60 frames per second. You understanding? Zelda Tears of the Kingdom now has 60 frames. They just couldn't do it before. But all Nintendo games are going to get that 60 frames per second, and they have those cartoon graphics. They don't care, and they're getting 60 frames in handheld mode. At this point, it doesn't matter. I'm telling you, even with those specifications, if you design and operate the game correctly, you are going to get that enjoyable experience and have a good time. There was even Pokemon fans saying, man, I don't care about no 30 frames per second. I want my Pokemon experience. First and foremost, before anything, is about the experience and about the identity. They don't have it over here in Xbox. They didn't even treat their base right. All they have is Game Pass, but they don't have the most important things. And nobody cares about them outside of America. They had a sub-market here, but this gives you the idea of what the world thinks. Not a little fanboy cult left over in a corner when 99% of the gaming community says we don't care. Okay, let me give you a little bit. Let's say 97 on a good day. And you have 3% or whatever the hell else you have left. But the majority of this over here and on Steam, they buy games. They'll use some services, but they're buying games. They want their exclusives. And then they want their third-party experience outside of that. In the Nintendo world, you can keep playing their games all day because they have games that last a long time. You can play Animal Crossing for thousands of hours. You can play Mario Kart for thousands of hours. You can play Smash Brothers for thousands of hours. You can play Pokemon for hundreds of hours and PvP. You see what I'm saying here? Nintendo has that. They have that balance. Then they have the third-party games outside of that. PlayStation has things like that as well, too. So this gives you an idea. They got a Horizon all around the way that you need that balance, and you need the most important things. And that price point and that entry, Sony's still giving deals, even to compete with Nintendo. So this is what wins you the race. Microsoft couldn't do that. When they had it, guess what? They had a game that you could play all day, like Halo and Gears, and they had an identity, and they had voice chat and all those things that were exclusive there. It matters. I don't care what you say, because the results tell you that even with Game Pass and all that, it doesn't work. Nobody cares. Results. Not sitting there fanboy fantasizing, these are the results of what the world says. They don't care. Xbox is dead. It is. It's being outsold by this console that's almost 9 years old now. And the specifications that are way weaker. But guess what? They still get some of those experiences. Nintendo's still dropping games there. I told you, people don't care. It's about the bigger picture, not about your ego and what you think and what you want to represent. And we're just over here speaking the truth. So there we have it. Nintendo's number one. Nintendo's the market leader, along with Sony right after that. And Sony's trying to stay relevant by giving you insane deals. But this is a good thing, almost if like AMD was getting so much dominance, if they were, right, then NVIDIA would be forced to drop the prices. You think that's bad? No, man, that's good. So there we have it. Now we understand why Nintendo's winning. Now we understand why that grift was pointless and it was just hate. So so that they could cope and satiate because they're winning, and they wish the platform that failed when they went to PC to grift towards Nintendo, we're winning. And we're doing, and when they had those numbers, they wish Xbox had these numbers. And they'd be there. They wouldn't need to be on PC the way they would. They probably still would be in a way, but you kind of get what I'm saying. You wish you could have these numbers. You'd be lying if you said that. You wish you had that exclusive identity and that you can get those sales that they were selling. So we know what Mark Cerny said here. Performance mode. And let's end this right here so that we can remember. All right. Let's pull up the wiki here to end this. You guys know what this is, right? We've been here before. Oh, man, get out of here with that. But anyways, this is what Microsoft wanted, guys. This is what PlayStation wants, right here. This is what PlayStation wants. 70 million, 48 million, 36. You see what I mean? This is exclusive power. This is exclusive identity. You're not getting this. You'll try to pirate it and leech off, but you see what I mean? This is their world. They don't have to play ball. For what? Everybody wanted this. What's they going to do for it? Just like Apple selling what they're selling. You ain't getting anything else outside of the Apple world. You see what I mean? It's that identity, and that's where you're dominating, and that's where you're winning. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think about this. PlayStation has some good numbers, too. Not that good, but it's still good. So you get the idea. Later.